Man, the Saints have a whole lot to clean up after that loss to the Bucs this weekend. We are going to get into everything we saw during the game in our rewatch, the stuff that we heard from head coach Dennis Allen, Derek Carr, even Alvin Kamara, which was incredibly insightful today after practice. We've got a lot to unpack. I'm Brooke Kirchhofer alongside Mike Triplett and Nick Underhill. Going to break it all down for you right now live on NewOrleans.Football.
Yeah, I think it's more like doing an autopsy, but if you want to avoid the autopsy table and stay healthy, check out Toro Hospital or go to the LCMC Medical Network. They will get you right if you have any healthcare needs. And start every single day with PJ's Coffee. They have locations all over the city. They're our presenting sponsor. Support them because they support us. And also check out Matt Bowers, best car dealer in the Gulf Coast South region. If you need to get into a new ride, go check him out. He'll get you in and out as cheaply and as painlessly as possible. We vouch for them. That's where we get all our cars. All right, let's hit these ads. The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. Are you looking for the perfect engagement ring? Look no further than Friend & Company Fine Jewelers' new engagement salon. This new area houses a wide selection of engagement rings to choose from in all cuts, sizes, and colors. Their experienced staff offer 5-star customer care to help you find the perfect ring to express your love. Visit their new engagement salon today. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers, the perfect ring for the perfect moment and also for the perfect person. 7713 Maple Street between Adams and Burdett Street. 504-866-5433. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers. Check them out at friendandcompany.com.
For fast relief coffee.
Mike Hoss here. When the AC goes out and it's hot outside, every second counts. For over 40 years, Keefe's AC Heating and Electrical has helped thousands of families stay cool in the sizzling hot months. Keefe's Get You Cool in 3 hours or less guarantee is what our customers love the most on the North or South Shore. Call Keefe's. We'll get you cool in 3 hours or less guaranteed.
Keefe's Air Conditioning and Heating.
And now electrical.
For fast relief coffee.
Moe's Barbecue is located in Metairie. They have your game day needs taken care of. Whether you're tailgating or watching the Black and Gold or LSU at home with friends, Moe's has you covered. Order pulled pork, wings, ribs, sides, and more. Come in with the family for lunch and dinner as our kids' meals will please even the pickiest of eaters. Tailgating, parties at home, lunch and dinner, Moe's Barbecue will handle it all. Moe's Original Barbecue, 1101 North Causeway Boulevard between 48th and 49th Street in Metairie. Call 504-407-5333 for your catering order today. 504-407-5333. Moe's Original Barbecue in Metairie. Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. NewOrleans.Football is proud to be sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Make sure you check out their location on Veterans Boulevard. All right, let's get into the show.
Let's get into our lead topic presented by Friend & Company Fine Jewelers. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers is home to a brand new engagement salon where they have a wide variety of engagement rings. And while you're there, ask them about their fleur-de-lis collection of earrings and necklace that I have on now. They are specially priced for our NOF audience. All right, let's get into the lead. Is the play calling beyond help with offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael calling the offensive plays? To me, it seems like something has to change now. I'm not saying that means fire Pete, but maybe you get Ronald Curry involved in the offensive game planning during the week. Maybe you add in an offensive analyst, but what they're doing right now is going to cost them down the road.
It's not working. I mean, it's got to be like significantly better than what it is right now, and I think it's a massive issue. I mean, it's broken. It needs to be fixed. Can they fix it? I mean, that's the $1 million question right now. And if they can't, right, they got to make a change at some point. I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot of room for patience. I don't think there's even really a whole lot of need for nuance. Like we're in year 2 of the same story. It's there's no change. There was an intermission, and you're just right back into it. And it's the same exact stuff going on. And some of it just kind of doesn't meet the merit of common sense. I mean, it's not working. It is bad, and it has to be fixed.
The only thing I would say, and this is not to exonerate Pete, but I'm going to call it year 3 of the same story. I mean,
Pete was part of it. Sean Payton's last year looked like this too. And Nick did a great job breaking down how this once innovative offense just has grown stale while the rest of the league has passed it up, and they're doing a lot of the things they used to do. So I don't know if that is meant as saying something nice about Pete, or saying that this has been going on for even longer than just a year and 4 games. It's been 2 years and 4 games in my mind. And so there's no like, it's too early in the season to panic. It wasn't supposed to look like this, and they made such great strides to change it. I mean, week 1, I thought we were seeing some slight tweaks and some creativity and some inventiveness. And then afterward, we did the story where I talked to Pete and I talked to Dennis Allen about how, we sat down this offseason and we said it's going to be different this year. And the results haven't been different. This game was such an eye-opener to me because I think we could fairly blame the offensive line struggles in the first 3 weeks to never really give the offense a chance to get going. They had a chance to get going in this game, and the offense just failed.
Yeah, the solution is the hardest question to answer right now, but it wasn't all bad in the game. I mean, we saw where Derek Carr did find success on the short outside passes to Rashid Shaheed and Michael Thomas, and them turning and moving the sticks, getting the first down. Why did they continue to go away from that at the end of the game, though? Not even at the end of the game. We really saw it at the beginning and then halftime, and didn't really see it in the second quarter much, or second half much.
Well, I mean, there were things they wanted to do in this game that they were never able to do. And obviously, they did not probably intend to throw to Alvin Kamara 13 times, but some of that stuff they thought was going to work. The shovel passes and the things they thought were going to get Alvin unleashed, it just clearly was not working against a team that has really good speed at linebacker and safety. But also, I mean, Tampa Bay made it clear. They just announced in this game, we're not letting you get the ball to Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed.
Yeah.
We've seen that that's the only thing that worked for your offense all season. It's not happening today. So I'm also stunned with you that I mean, I honestly don't ever remember watching a game in real time where I was like, just seeing it play out, and this is not going to work against this defense. Like, they should have – Michael Thomas should have had 12 catches over the middle of the field in this game. Rashid Shaheed should have had, catches and yards after the catch opportunity until they saw Tampa Bay adjust to that. But they never gave Tampa any reason to stop playing the defense the way they were playing it.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, like, so they're doing the stuff that works. They're getting Rashid outside. They're hitting him in the flat. So the next time they try to run the play, they run it to Alvin going behind Chris Olave, So I don't know what the hell they're doing. Like, this just doesn't make sense.
It was confusing to me, especially in my rewatch on several of the third down attempts. I don't know what's going on with some of these route concepts, but some of the guys were like getting pushed down to the ground or just weren't open. And that's where you saw Derek Carr kind of just dump it off to Alvin Kamara, and he couldn't really go anywhere. That, to me, is something that needs to be in question as well, is who's drawing up these route concepts on these third down plays, because I'm not seeing wide receivers even open on some of them.
Well, I mean, you go to the third down, and there's spots you can attack in the middle of the field. Like, they're playing cover 3 on some of these, and that closes the middle of the field to a certain degree. But there is space where you go and you attack behind the linebacker and the safety. Like, that's an open zone in the middle of the field. There's no routes going there. Like, they aren't trying to get there at all. When they're playing cover 2, that's middle of the field open because the safeties shade out to the outside and you can attack horizontally. There aren't routes going there. So, I mean, like, there's just stuff you see, like, against certain coverages. And I'm no, like, savant, but I've watched Sean's offense for a long time, and I saw him do things that just kind of exploited these coverages, and it almost felt like a cheat code at times. And the Saints aren't calling those plays in these moments anymore. So it's like, you have the plays and they're showing up, but they aren't showing up in the same moments they used to. And I think that's where you get into the questions about the play calling, because it's just like, okay. And look, I think the other issue with this offense is that there was a time and a place when it was setting the trends in the NFL and it was just breaking defenses because people didn't know how to react to it. I think those days are long gone.
Yeah.
And I think it's very, very dependent on A, like the quarterback to make it go, and B, making sure you are getting the stuff out there at the very precise moment that it needs to be out there. Because, like, if you look at, like, Miami, you could call the wrong play against the coverage, but, like, there's so much motion and there's so much stuff going on that, like, there's a chance that something is going to break in the defense because you are forcing it to break. The Saints don't do that. So they don't motion. They don't do play action. They don't do the things that, like, all these people that are defining the NFL offenses do now. So, like, you have to have the right play at the right moment against the right coverage, and there really isn't a lot of room for, like, okay, this might still work because like it just isn't anymore because you aren't at the innovative forefront. People know how to defend it. You got to do things differently.
Yeah.
I think the thing that was so jarring in this game is they finally, these plays we're talking about, they were 3rd and 4. They were 3rd and 5. We've been waiting all season to see, okay, it's not 3rd and 12. Derek Carr doesn't have to wait 5 seconds for routes to develop and he's getting hit. This is stuff, finally, you can call the plays that are supposed to work. And that's why it was so jarring that, like, week 1, I mean, we talked about this after the game. Week 1, the stuff with Chris Olave was so clever. Like, they had all these great ideas. Like, Chris Olave did he catch 10 balls in that game? And he caught them in, like, 7 different places, twice coming out of the backfield. And now it was just like Chris Olave run deep against double coverage the entire game. It was stunning to me how this game, more than the other ones, played out like a disaster, and the team was in bad situations the whole game. They had opportunities in this game, and their inability to take advantage, I think, is why everyone is so exasperated after this one above all the others.
It was stunning to me how they were using the big three, Rashid, Mike T, and Olave. Yes, you were down Foster and Juwan Johnson, but I don't ever want to see those 3 block. And you saw a lot of that in the game where Chris Olave or Rashid, you wondered why they were on the ground. If you kind of backed up the play a little bit, you saw that they were set up to block for Alvin Kamara or Tony Jones Jr. And it's like, why are you putting these 3 in a position where that's not their game?
I wish you could say they weren't needed, though. But what did we sit in these chairs for the first 3 weeks saying these offensive linemen can't get it done by themselves? And they went to this game with only Jimmy Graham at tight end, and he's not a blocker either. So, that wasn't the solution, though.
Yeah, but I think like at a certain point, you got to toss some stuff out. Like if you're running a screen and Chris Olave is the anchor point on it, you're running the wrong play. Like just don't do it. Don't do it. Go away from it. It's just these are the things like. There's just some common sense stuff, like even before you get into like design and everything, it's just like you can sit at home and literally watch. And I'm not someone that comes after coaching. Like I'm not. I've been covering the NFL for a lot of years now. Like, and I can. There's just not a lot of times that I go after the coaching. Like it's just I don't feel comfortable doing it. It's not normally like visible enough. Like there is common sense stuff happening right now that is just like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And it's so obvious.
It's not just us and. Players aren't calling out the coaches, and they're all saying it's our fault too, execution. But, I mean, the conversation that you just had with Alvin Kamara, obviously everyone needs to check out, and Chris Olave's frustration on the field or whatever. I mean, that's usually when we, even last year when everybody wanted to fire Dennis Allen for a long time, we're like, we haven't seen him lose the locker room. We haven't seen. They're in real jeopardy of these players being like, they're not putting us in positions to have success. I mean, they're I feel like on the verge of saying it outright. Alvin Kamara was pretty, I think fair but biting in his comments to you today.
Yeah, we're going to get to that a little bit later. But for now, let's get to our moment presented by New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company. I've got a couple moments from the game that I think could have changed things in the Saints' favor. The first situation was second quarter, 3rd down situation, 3rd and 5. It looked like Rashid Shaheed pulled up on the route. Look, and it's hard to watch if you're not watching from the All-22 film, but Rashid Shaheed did pull up. Derek Carr, where Shaheed ended, was about 4 paces in front of where the ball landed inbounds. I know it didn't look like it landed inbounds when you watch the game highlights, but from the All-22, that ball to me was placed almost perfectly by Derek Carr for Shaheed's speed. To me, it's easy to, break. We're going to get into the second one where I think it was more so on Derek Carr, but in that play, like that's a situation where the Saints were still in it and you just needed that extra push from Rashid to go get that ball.
Yeah, and I saw that like floating around on Twitter a little bit where people were, and I was just like, man, like I don't know, like you watch it from another angle and like could have ran through it, like it's just whether independent of success or failure on the catch, like it's just like why'd this end early? I don't know. It was something that stood out to me a little bit. It was
confusing, but just to be fair for the people who haven't watched the play, it wasn't Rashid Shaheed open and pulling up. He was, he was well covered. Something you said, he probably could have pushed through and fought through, or maybe he tried to draw a pass interference penalty. But he
had a step on the two defenders.
The other thing that was weird about that is Mike Thomas was right in the area too, and then
bizarre.
Mike was calling for pass interference. For a second, I thought maybe Mike was the intended receiver. But the thing that I hated most about that play was it was well-covered Shaheed and well-covered Mike, both deep down the field on 3rd and 5.
Yeah.
It was a low percentage throw when the same thing we said all the time. You could look at every 3rd and 5 and 3rd and 4 in this game, and there were no like we've said it a million times. Please give me the Mike Thomas slant. That is not a dirty word in this room.
That was their spacing on a lot of passing concepts this season has been terrible too.
Yeah.
Like you just mentioned when there's two guys in the same area. There was a play this week where I think Mike caught it and Olave was running basically the same exact route to the same exact spot on the field. There was one last week in the 2-minute, ended up incomplete where Mike and Chris were running to the same exact spot on the field. Like there are issues significantly with their spacing and how they're setting some of these plays up, which is something we used to never, ever, ever, ever see in this offense. It was so precise. Like they were tyrannical about just making sure that guys had the right splits. That it wasn't. I mean, and you just don't see that anymore. Like there's these little sloppy mistakes that are just not what you're used to seeing in this offense.
Yeah, that confused me too. And it was almost one of those, it reminded me of when Derek Carr, the whole mic'd up thing that went viral on social media of like, go, it reminded me of that. And he probably thought he had Shaheed there for the play. If Shaheed would have finished the route and not necessarily pulled up, that's what we saw. But obviously in the flow of a game, it's hard to break that down. But that was one of the moments where the Saints could have pulled ahead, got some momentum on offense, didn't fall their way. All right, the second situation, later in the second quarter, this one in a long 3rd and distance, 3rd and 16. Derek Carr had Chris Olave open. Yes, he ended up in double coverage, he ended up where the ball ended up. He was already in the end zone, but Chris Olave had those two defenders beat, and it was more so Derek Carr threw it just probably a hair too late, but that's another opportunity for a touchdown.
Yeah, it was if he just put a little bit more on it. Like it came to like the middle of the S. If he had put it on the top of the S, it's a touchdown. And you know, he should have led Olave on it. It was just underthrown. He just didn't put enough on the ball.
You talking about the 60-yard pass?
The one to the end zone.
Yeah, I mean, 60 yards was good to see that his shoulder could do it, but yeah, the timing was off on it. But again, people used to always say this about Drew Brees. I mean, that's the hardest completion. A 60-yard pass in stride is a hard completion to make, and it was a low percentage throw. And Derek Carr's response to that after the game was, I was angry because they had just missed a wide open, easy big play that they should have had on the previous play, and so then they tried to force one. And yeah, could have definitely been a better place throw.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think force is a strong word. Sure. I mean, if you're going to attempt to throw, you got to make the throw.
Right.
I mean,
Carr was maybe frustrated, but in that moment, you're watching the game take emotions out of it. Chris had them both beat, and it was just like, that's the most frustrating thing watching all of this back is there were so many opportunities where it's like, no, it was just, and I think even DA mentioned that too in the interview over the phone today is, look, it's like one guy is not doing something right, or somebody over here, somebody on the offensive line. It seems like they are just desperately waiting for all 11 guys on the field to be doing their job at 100%.
Look, and the thing is, I was like, you got people like trying to be like, oh no, it's player execution. Player execution is on the coaches. It's your team. Get them to execute. Yeah. I mean, so it all comes back to the same place. It's on the coaching. It was
interesting when Dennis Allen was asked about Carr's performance the other day. And if the shoulder related to, he said when they reviewed the tape, he thought there were two throws that Carr really missed. And one was the one to Olave in the sideline, and one was to Mike over the middle of the field. And then Carr today said that the first thing they did out on the practice field, he said him and Olave were on the wrong page, or were on different pages on that one. And he said him and Mike were on different pages on a certain throw. And he said they worked on that today before they got into practice. So that's an element of it too, is these guys are still figuring each other out.
All right, let's get to a quick injury report here. There were 6 guys who did not practice. 2 were rests that don't necessarily count. And that was Ryan Ramczyk as well as Jimmy Graham. But Ryan Ramczyk did have /foot. So rest /foot. So maybe something is there that we don't know about. Juwan Johnson did not practice with a calf injury. Lonnie Johnson is a new addition. His hamstring was injured in the game this weekend. He did not practice. Andres Pete, new injury. He is a concussion. He is in concussion protocol. And then Brian Brzee, they said, had an illness today. Paulson Adebo, Derek Carr, Eric McCoy, Foster Moreau, and Jordan Howden, Jordan Howden and Foster Moreau were full participants. Eric McCoy, Derek Carr, and Paulson Adebo were limited. But it was good to see Paulson Adebo back out there. And even Jordan Howden, who he did tell us today, you put it out there last week, he did have surgery on his hand, but it seemed like his hand was very much like this. I don't know if he's left or right-handed. It was his left hand that had the stitching, but I don't know if he's going to be ready to go this weekend.
You said he practiced fully today?
No, he did. He practiced fully.
He'll
but
be able to club it up probably.
That's what it's going to be because he really didn't move his hand much when we were interviewing him.
He said he's still going to try to catch it even at the club, but we were joking about how you go from an interception mentality to a forced fumble. When you have that club, you really want to knock the ball loose.
Like Marshawn played with the club, so I bet he's out there. Look, they need him. They need him on the field bad. Like I think they missed him. They got way too deep into the depth at safety this week. I think it was a significant issue. It's funny, like I think Adebo coming back is good. Like I don't know if Yadam's like riding a wave that's gonna crash, or if he's just like really on that wave and the wave's never gonna end. But I don't know. Like I feel better about Adebo being out there because I just kind of know what that's gonna be. But Yadam has played great, and I don't want to take anything away from him. But I do think it's good to just kind of start getting some guys back. Caesar being back, I think is huge with Pete being now in the concussion protocol. So positive developments kind of on that thing. In some senses, Foster coming back is huge too. Like they need that blocking element at tight end.
The Patriots did have a little bit of a lengthy report.
As always.
Only 2 guys did not practice, but there was a lot of guys limited, which included Ty Montgomery, former Saints running back. I did not realize that he was with the Patriots. But let's real quickly talk about their cornerback who is out and them adding in J.C. Jackson. You covered him way back in the day. What are they getting with him, the Patriots?
Yeah, so he was one of the guys that I always felt like Patriots reporters, like there's this thing where they overrate the hell out of the players on that team. And I thought he was someone that got like massively overrated, but like he made plays in that system. And I wasn't shocked that he went to the Chargers and wasn't that good. But like dude had 23 picks in 3 seasons. Like you can't fake that. He kind of just really thrived in their system. And I think bringing him back, we'll see. Like, I don't know. It's been a few years since he's been there. Like, maybe something has changed for him. He had a knee injury at some point, but he thrives in their system. And there's a lot of guys that, like, go away and they're good at Patriots. They go somewhere else, they're terrible, and they come back and then they're good again. Like, he could be one of those guys. So,
yeah. Well, what I was going to say is the Patriots got way worse at that position this week, though. Adding J.C. Jackson is stopping the bleeding. This is their first-round draft pick. Christian Gonzalez got hurt. Was probably immediately one of the best players on their team. And I mean, it's hard to say the Saints are catching a lucky break after they weren't able to take advantage of all the injuries in Green Bay. But this is another week where they're not going to face New England's secondary at full strength.
And we'll get into more of the matchups between the Patriots and the Saints, the key matchups to look for on Friday during our live show. Be sure to join us for that. But when we come back, what went wrong with the Saints defense? We also go around the NFC South and we hear from you with our question of the day. We'll be right back.
We're big with the kickoff combo at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company. Each comes with fried shrimp, garlic herb fries, and your choice of soft-shelled crab, our famous thin-fried catfish, or traditional catfish, starting at $10.99 at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company.
Are you tired of renting and ready to own your dream home? Contact Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union, your trusted source for home loans. Our competitive rates and flexible terms can help make your home ownership dreams a reality. If you're a first-time home buyer or looking to refinance, our experienced lenders are here to help. Our online application process allows you to apply on your schedule. It's quick, easy, and convenient. Visit us online at jeffersonfinancial.org to learn more. Federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
At Turo, we were born for moments like this. From bringing new bundles of joy into the world to delivering what new mothers need to stay healthy. Born to keep hearts beating strong and to keep seniors active and healthy for years to come. Because at Turo, we deliver more than babies. From heart care to cancer care and newborns to seniors, at Turo, we're born to care.
Martin Wine and Spirits is home to a selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and much, much more. They are family owned and operated since 1946 and specialize in wine, spirits, gourmet food, gift baskets, catering, and tasting events. They have many locations, so they're never too far away. You can check them out in Metairie, New Orleans, Mandeville, and Baton Rouge, or if it's more convenient, you can always shop online. Whether you're a wine novice or a seasoned collector, you'll enjoy the Martin Wine and Spirit experience.
I'll take a New Orleans Saints scratch up. Play New Orleans Saints from the lottery. Just scratch, fold, and punch your way to winnings. punch your ticket with New Orleans Saints. Win up to $100,000. Enter our second chance drawings, giving you a season to smile.
Welcome back to the Turo Hospital studio. Look, let's get right into the Saints' performance on defense. Look, the tackling was incredibly poor in our rewatch.
Yeah, no, they missed a bunch, and they missed them in key moments, too. And that's kind of the thing. Like, there's been games with similar volume, but I think just the quality of the missed tackle matters. And it's been an issue 2 weeks in a row now. It was a big one against the Packers last week. Jordan Love scored when DeMario missed that tackle in the open field. They had him again this week, and it's from some people that you aren't used to seeing them from, like Pete Werner. So I think it just got like a little bit loose, coming into this, and yeah, it's something that they got to clean up. I mean, you can't have that, especially when you are riding such a thin rail.
Yeah. You're exactly right, and I hate to. Exactly like you were talking about coaching earlier. I hate to place vibe on these guys and try to get into their minds. I'd like to have more technical, official reasons for all my analysis, but this game just felt like the defense was finally unable to shoulder the weight of having to do it all by themselves this season. I mean, it was finally felt to me like we just can't keep doing this anymore. It was by far their worst performance and their sloppiest performance. And Nick was right about it being in the worst situations. I mean, that first scoring drive for Green Bay, I think they had like a 3rd and 7 converted, a 3rd and 8 converted, a 3rd and 6 converted, and then the touchdown was on 3rd down. I don't remember if all 4 of those were on the same drive, but so many of those, they were off the field if they hadn't missed those first 2 tackles, or they were off the field if the pressure that got to Baker Mayfield would have corralled him instead of letting him make the play last 5 seconds longer. It was nothing. We haven't seen a performance anything close to that in those big moments.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield, credit to him and his offensive line. Look, I thought that there was maybe some suspect holding calls that were not called on the Bucs offensive line, but Baker Mayfield ad-libbed like one of the better quarterbacks we've seen the Saints play this year. Probably ad-libbed the best out of all the quarterbacks that they've played up to this point. But for me, it was how bad the Saints struggled in man coverage. Why did you not go away from that? And you mentioned, too, that it might have been because some of their starters were out, but man, the linebackers were just missing tackles left and right, and man.
It was an issue the whole game. I mean, I don't know. It was rough. Baker cooked them. I mean, he really did. He had a great game. He took advantage of what was there. And yeah, when they were playing man coverage and they're down the field and they got their backs to the quarterback, Baker recognized it on a handful of plays and took off and took advantage of the open vacated space. And by the time your secondary's coming back down to tackle him, he's at the sticks. I mean, it's just something that he really was able to take advantage of. And I think you are limited in some of the stuff you can do when you're down a few players, and then like Yadam is kind of good at playing man up. So I think you stick with that. But it was an issue overall. One of the big plays where they had major issues in coverage was that the touchdown to the tight end. Like Alante didn't follow his guy to the other side of the field, and it just turned into this. Or I'm sorry, Alante followed, and it just turned into a whole thing. Like you should have stayed and passed off and let Pete Werner cover him. You have 2 guys on one guy, and now one guy's wide open. It was just a little bit uncharacteristically sloppy across the board.
Yeah, the one play you were talking about, I mean, the tight end just ran to his spot and kept his hands up. And I'm like, there was just nobody there because the play you were talking about, Pete Werner and Alante Taylor both ran the exact same way. There was some confusion. That's something that we need to ask Joe Woods tomorrow when we talk to him is what was the breakdown on that? What happened?
Draw it up on Friday, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
had mentioned too.
Oh, no.
What else are we going to do?
I know, exactly.
There's no good plays.
But it was hard to read whose fault it was because even you mentioned, was it like the D-line that was supposed to maybe pick, the D-lineman was supposed to pick him up there? Was DeMario out of place? It was just
an incredibly
chaos.
busted coverage. Yeah.
Chaos.
I agree. No, one thing I was going to say regarding the defensive line when we were talking about not just the busted coverages, but Baker Mayfield escaping, we're going to probably talk a little bit more about their pass rush and whether that's dropped off. They're still getting decent amounts of pressure that they just didn't finish on. But they really struggled to set the edge, and this is 2 weeks in a row because of Jordan Love escaping. And I was on the members-only pod with Kevin Washington, our friend, yesterday, and he brought up a very scary reminder that they're just a couple weeks away from facing Justin Fields and Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
And this did not look like a defense that's going to be ready to conquer what has been their biggest nemesis over the last 3 or 4 years. So they need to clean it up against Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi or whoever they're going to see this week. They need to clean it up against the rookie and C.J. Stroud. they really need to get it cleaned up very soon because they're about to face some very elusive quarterbacks.
Yeah, and with that, can this defense return back to a top 5 run defense that we were used to seeing?
Stay tuned and find out. I think I have confidence in the defense. So I don't think the defense is on the skids really. It's just they can't give up 20 points. That's like the degree of difficulty is like insane right now. So some of the stuff you're pointing out, like it's just like, yeah, all right. Like you go through it and you keep pointing these things out, but it's nitpicking in a situation where there's competency on the other side of the ball. Like the way they played this week, you should still be able to win this game. Yep. Like it's still a winnable game if you can score a touchdown, but this team can't score a touchdown right now. So I don't know. It's a very hard way to play. I think it's a lot of pressure on the defense. They're down multiple people. I think they played probably about as good as they could have in this game. And it's just, your offense is Blake Groupie. I mean, it doesn't work.
And by the way, one of the touchdown drives did it end up being a 6-yard touchdown drive after the fumble coming out of the end zone just before halftime. Yeah.
Brutal all around. But Alvin Kamara was money today in the locker room. He is our money segment presented by Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union. He's probably the first guy on offense who has completely broken it down. Like, this is our problems. This is what needs to get fixed. He also had the advantage of sitting back and watching the first 3 games from home. So I'm sure it's even more frustrating him seeing kind of the things that needed to get corrected after those first 3 games. He comes back. It's even worse in the run game with Alvin Kamara back, which none of us expected. You had a chance to talk with him one-on-one to get all of these really great answers from him. What did we learn?
I mean, he's frustrated, and he should be. He was frustrated last year too, though, with some of the stuff that was going on. But it definitely seems like it's heightened to a degree. I thought he was pretty critical of everything. He was critical of the play calling, the lack of evolution in the offense. Said everything very diplomatically, but it's there, and just some of the common sense stuff too that we talk about all the time. It's just like I don't understand why this is so hard to get Mike the ball. I don't know why it's so hard to get Alvin the ball in space. I don't know why it's so hard to get Chris ball. Like, just if you want to get him the ball, just get him the ball. Like Alvin basically said the same thing. Like these things that he was describing it like that, and he's like, it sounds simple, but it's really not that complicated. And I asked him a question just about like why they were doing something. He's like, we just go out there and run the plays that are called. But the one thing that I thought was most interesting is he said him and Mike Thomas talked, and they talked about we got to go out there and just kind of make it happen. Like, it's just kind of like they feel like, all right, like we can't control this. So when the ball comes to us, we got to find out a way to make plays and kind of overcome some of this stuff. But Alvin's fed up. And he pointed out that the lack of evolution in the offense and using like modern tactics, like with the motions and stuff you're seeing across the league. He said when they actually use them, the stuff is effective. They just don't ever use them. And he basically said, you evolve or you go extinct in this league. And he feels like it's time for the offense to start evolving. Said they got to start throwing out the stuff that doesn't work. He's frustrated, as he should be.
The most damning word he used was predictable.
Yeah.
I thought that word cannot come across as anything but criticism. Like, even if you're trying to be fair, even if you're trying to say, hey, the players have a role in this, execution is not called predictable. It's play calling and game planning is what you call predictable. So that was pretty damning of him.
Let me ask you something. When you see Lynn Bowden and Keith Kirkwood come trotting off the bench together as a duo, what's going to happen?
Alvin said it. Get the ball to playmakers.
Yep.
They're not doing enough of that.
But they're going to run. Like, you see them dudes, they're going to run. Like, immediately you see 5 and 18, 5 plus 18 equals run. Like, that's just every single time.
Yeah.
Every single time. And it's just like, can't do this. Like, it is predictable. It's just, they've always kind of had these groupings of people that come in and out and in and out. But like, you got to mix it up. You got to throw the ball to Traquan every now and then so that when Traquan comes out there to block, it's not so predictable. And they aren't doing it. It's predictable. Like, it actually is now. And that was something like fans used to complain about all the time, and it would drive me nuts. It's like, no, it's not. Like, it's a 50-50 shot. You're guessing at these things. They create, like, I used to track Sean's tendencies, and then like, it would be like, yeah, it is predictable for 6 weeks. And then in week 7, he would just shatter it and use the predictability to like dismantle someone else. I don't have the belief that that's what's happening right now. I think it's just predictable, and other teams know it. And it's just 5 and 18 are out there. You know what's going to happen. It's not a good thing.
You think Alvin's speaking up on the sideline like he used to do with Sean too, with maybe seeing something and being like, hey, let me run this play?
I don't think Alvin's someone that has the ability to stay quiet if he sees something wrong or he thinks something. So probably, but it's just let him do more of it if he is. Because like I don't know. I kind of trust him to pick the right stuff coming out of it. Sean did. I'd like to see more of that. I don't know what they're doing right now, but it is it's everything he said. It's frustrating. It's predictable. It's lacking in modern techniques. I just did a story breaking everything down. They're again bottom of the league in play action, bottom of the league in motion. Their first 15 plays are somewhat okay. Every play after that isn't working well. They aren't running slants anymore. Like, it just, I don't know.
They did so much motion in week 1 too. It seemed like, this is working. I don't know why they've gone away from that. Look, I will say to the naked eye, without studying it, without realizing everything else, I did see inventiveness in their ideas for getting Alvin the ball. A lot of them failed. I mean, what did he have? 20 touches, and he was averaging like a yard a touch because he lost 7 on 1, and he lost 6 on 1. But he was the only one I thought that I saw them like with a plan for trying to get him in the ball in different places. We saw that, like I said, with Chris Olave in week 1. I'm really stunned that they did not have a better plan for putting the ball in Chris Olave's hands.
Here's the thing, though. Like, it seems like there's a lack of understanding of the personnel to a certain degree, though, because like, if you're going to run the play where Taysom's quarterback, you're handing off to Carr.
You're bringing up that
Carr's
play.
pitching it off to Alvin on the sweep action. Like, it seems like that should be Taysom taking it to the left and then Shaheed coming the other way. Like, no, I'm not bagging on Alvin here. Like, it's just, but if you're going to have somebody on like a dead sprint or on the edge, like I want one of the guys that runs 4-3 doing it. And, on the other side of the formation, I don't want the whole play dependent on Lynn Bowden, a street free agent, having to hit a crackdown block from a 4-yard split on a linebacker, and if he misses it, the play's just impaled. It just seems like I don't know. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you running this play like this? It just seems like you could do it a different way.
Well, in what world did you think Derek Carr was going to take that ball?
And
with the injured shoulder,
I think it was Levante David that like was just like, well, he can go.
See you later.
Like, he did not even. It wasn't even like a peripheral vision, like human nature. Pause for a second. Oh wait, that's the quarterback. It was just totally dismissed.
Like, if
Derek Carr.
I guess if you're gonna do that with Carr, like, have someone running a route up the left side of the field so that like everybody has to like freeze a little bit just in case he throws it. Like, I have the pass option on the run option or something. But like, man, I just didn't understand.
I just want to know when because they did run it in practice. When you ran that in practice, did no one think, probably not a good call with an injured quarterback?
I got to imagine there are a few people on the field like, man, this ain't going to work.
You got to I mean, what does that say about this team, though, that nobody spoke up or that I don't know.
I don't know what you're going to say,
it's tough to say because you don't want your players challenging your coaches. But at this point, it's like, man, this team has to come together somehow.
Yeah.
Alvin, the thing that I don't disagree with him saying is he spent about half of that interview talking about how he wants to just run the ball and impose their will. And he said, I bet all 5 offensive linemen want to do that more. And for a brief moment in the third quarter, they actually got the ball moving. But I will say, before Alvin came back and while the offensive line was playing horrible, that was one of the biggest failures of this team was that would be great if that worked, but every time they ran the ball on 1st and 10, they were in 2nd and 10 for a long time this season. So I love the idea of, run the ball, show impose your will on the defense, run for 7 yards, have it be 2nd and 3. But easier said than done because we haven't seen the team do that successfully in a few years.
Look, and if you want to watch that entire Alvin Kamara interview, it is on our YouTube page. All right, let's get to our Martin Wine and Spirits question of the day. Martin Wine and Spirits is home to a wide selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and more. All right, Travis Reeves has our question today. Where's the confidence level for everyone a quarter of a way into the season? Rank on a scale of 1 to 10 how likely you think the Saints turn it around and continue to fight for the division this year. 1 to 10.
It's hard to go 1 to 10. Let me talk first, and then I'll try to get to a number. Let me get to a number. I mean, I do think that there's I think things have maybe slid a little bit too far to one side. They are 2-2. They could very easily be 3-1 if the quarterback hadn't gotten hurt in Green Bay. So they had a bad game against a division opponent that they always have a hard time moving the ball against. So if they had won the Green Bay game, I think the reaction to this would be a lot different. Mike Thomas has a thing up on his story right now. It just said one win changes the whole narrative. Yeah. Like, I don't think he's totally wrong about that. If they go to New England and have a good win, like, people are going to be bought back in. At the same time, I think it's, high orange, dark orange alert on the offense right now with Pete Carmichael and
you
everything.
You don't do numbers, but you do shades of orange.
Well, I'm not code red yet. Like I'm 2 weeks away from firing him. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's dark orange. I'm looking at red. I'm walking towards red. So I think all that is very bad. I think it's terrifying. And the O-line, like, and I was the one saying it as much as anybody, but like, that's coaching. Fix it. Like, don't have, you got to fix all that stuff. So the coaching has been failing since week one offensively. They gotta get it right. So I don't know. Like, my confidence on them turning it around, like, I still think there's a scenario where they're in the playoffs. Like, I'm not ready to bury that yet. They're 2-2 at the end of the month. They've played a lot of road games. I don't know. I'm not quite all the way there yet. But 6.5. Like, I think I'm at a 6.5 right now.
That they do turn it around?
Yeah, 6.5.
When do you still feel good about a 10-7 record prediction? Because that obviously built in a slow patch. If we were just picking games they were going to be favored to win, we probably would have said 13-4 or whatever. But we knew they were going to be slow patches. So
my thing with them, like, when the schedule came out, is if you got to the other end of this, like with all the road games and everything, and how they're stacked, like at a 500 record, I was going to feel fine about it. So I think that's still on the table. I think that it's just kind of like small sample, half very, very bad, know, and since Carr hit the turf, like, it's been just abysmal since then. So it's a little bit terrifying. And again, it's residual, like, PTSD from last year, because we sat here before Pete came back, and I said, hey, if they bring him back, it's going to be like borderline malpractice. And then it was just kind of like, okay, they brought him back. It's like, what the hell? Then they get Carr. Then, things get built out, and you're like, well, maybe they figure it out. Like, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. We'll see if they figure it out. And then you get into the season, and it's just like, well, that was unearned, So it's just, that kind of puts a pale on everything, but I'm not ready to throw it out. I still think there's a lot of talented players. There has to be a way to just do the common sense things to get them the ball to where they can succeed.
A few things there. I disagree with you saying that the quarterback got hurt and that's why they lost the Green Bay game, especially after watching this last game. I don't know that they weren't going to collapse even with Carr in there. Like, I'm not blaming him and saying he's the problem, but this offense might have scored 0 points in the second half in Green Bay. That's how bad the offense is. You don't think
there was a significant energy shift in that game though after he hit?
Sure, it might have been, but it probably continued this game. Like when I was talking about the defense earlier, the defense probably holds tighter if they feel like one more stop and they win the game. But I'm not so sure now. That this team wasn't ready to slide because of the issues that we've seen. No matter who's playing quarterback this year, but. I am more concerned. I feel less confident about my 10-7 record prediction, and partly because at home against Tampa Bay was I thought the easiest game on the schedule when the schedule first came out. At Green Bay with a 17-0 lead at halftime, they've blown a couple of golden opportunities already. So maybe I've shifted my prediction more to 9-8. But I do think they can turn it around. My biggest concerns about this team going into the season were health, and we've got a healthy Michael Thomas, and we've got a healthy Trevor Penning, and so far injuries have not derailed this team, and Derek Carr survived the worst possible damage there. So they theoretically can have most of their 22 starters being part of the solution. And in the first 3 weeks of the season, I thought, oh no, this offensive line might derail everything. Like, this offensive line failure could like, if they can't overcome this, they can't do anything. And to give coaching some credit, they have shown improvement on the offensive line to the point where I don't think that's going to sink the team either. So in theory, a lot of the stuff we're talking about is correctable. They still do. We're so like beside ourselves that this offense stinks so bad, even though it has Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed and Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas. They still have all those guys. And the standard is they just need to be good enough. They don't need to be a great offense. They just need to be functional. They need to be, like you said, they need to be able to score 20 plus points a game, not 30, so those are achievable goals.
Brooke?
I'm like in the middle. I'm like a 5.56 just because I fear
exactly 5.56.
Yeah.
What that sounded like.
/6. I fear that they're not going to make a change with the play calling. And I'm not saying to fire Pete Carmichael, but something's got to change. Like whether it's a collaborative effort between Ronald Curry and Pete Carmichael, you bring in an offensive analyst, but nothing has shown me in 4 weeks that anything is going to change if it's just Pete Carmichael doing what he's done week after week. And the frustrating thing for this team is they know that. They continue to say that. Alvin Kamara expressed real frustration, but hey, could be worse. You could be the 0-4 Panthers. So let's go around the NFC South. Panthers are 0-4. It's just bad. And that's all we're going to say about them. Falcons are 2-2. Desmond Ridder is still QB1, but that could change based on what we're hearing in Atlanta. They're not ready to make a change yet, but Desmond Ridder might be on the bench. Cordero Patterson was back this weekend. Of course, he was dealing with injury the first 3 weeks. He made his first appearance in week 4, and the Bucs are 3-1. They are first in the division. Now, next week, it's a bye for the Bucs. The Panthers are at the Lions, and the Falcons host the Texans. I mean, if the Bucs are your best team in the division, and if we expect to see the Saints offense figure things out, I mean, it still could be wide open for the Saints.
Oh yeah, no doubt. It's 4 games. It's still definitely wide open.
Yeah.
I don't think it's buried
for the division. For the division.
Yeah, it's everything's still. I mean, look, everything's still out of them. It's 2-2, 2-2. You can turn it around. It's just, can they turn it around?
Yeah,
like that's where the negativity comes in. But it's not. The situation isn't so bad that it's impossible to overcome. 2-2 is not a bad place to be if you got your almost cuss if you got your stuff together. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just
they don't though.
That's if we were covering the Carolina Panthers, we'd be in a much more difficult position right now.
The Saints were in a much worse spot last year at this point than they are right now.
Oh yeah. And the last year the situation felt like it couldn't be overcome. Now our concerns are only, well, how good is this team actually? That's the unknown now. The spot 2-2, this is the best they've been in years at this stage of the season. Right?
The frustration is because they should be significantly better, and they aren't. That's why there's frustration, because this team actually has talent, and the talent's being undermined by probably the coaching.
Yeah, the potential has not been met just yet, but we will be back out at practice tomorrow. We'll continue our coverage. Be sure to be tuned in on NewOrleans.Football. We also just put out the Shannon and Jawan feature story out on YouTube. Let us know how you guys like that. We will have much more this weekend. We'll see you again live on NewOrleans.Football Friday.